Today we are looking at another IWC watch. This one has bags of potential, but ultimately I do think it misses the mark. Welcome back to Bark and Jack. I am Adrian, and I recorded most of this footage at the start of the year now when I was down in London at the IWC boutique on Bond Street, way before all of the smelly stuff hit the fan. As always, this video isn't sponsored by IWC. This video is sponsored by Bark and Jack. Over at barkandjack.shop we have a whole host of leather and NATO watch straps, along with watch accessories. Jump over to barkandjack.shop and check them out. So today, we are looking at a monster of a watch. This is the IWC Pilots Watch Timezoner Chronograph. So as I said, this is a monster of a watch. It is 46 millimeters wide. It is also 16.8 millimeters deep. It has a screw down crown which allows it to have 60 meters of water resistance. And this thing isn't just massive on paper. This thing is huge. It is, as I say, a monster of a watch. But before we write it off because of its size, the Timezoner Chronograph does have some awesome features. The bezel, the dial, and the movement are all its saving grace. The dial is busy, I'll give you that. The dial is really very, very busy. But once you break it down, it actually makes it more legible. And well, it's quite obvious, I find this with most busy dials, that when you break it down, you can start to understand what's going on. So let's break the dial down. We have time function, we have a sub dial for the running seconds, we have a date function, we have a 24-hour dial, and then we have the chronograph, which records seconds, minutes, and hours. So although it's a very busy dial, once you break it down, it makes it a little bit easier to understand. Just like all the other IWC Pilots watches, I love the typography of the numerals. I think that just screams IWC, it screams Pilots Watch. I really do like how they've executed this date window. The date window, well, the date function just blends into the background. If you don't focus in on it, then it pretty much just disappears as part of the dial. Now for the really fancy stuff, and that is the movement. This is the in-house caliber 89760. It is a column wheel chronograph with 24-hour and date functions. As an end user, the big thing that stands out is its 68-hour power reserve. But what's even cooler than that is the bezel and how the bezel interacts with the movement. This bezel is the time zone function. It is a ceramic bidirectional locking bezel, and it has all the time zones around the outside. You simply press down the bezel and you rotate it, but the bezel locks in its kind of stationary position. You press it down to unlock it and you can rotate it in either direction. As you rotate it, you are directly controlling the hour hand and the 24-hour hand. So as you cross time zones, you press it down, rotate it and select, make sure that you get the city of the time zone that you're in at the 12 o'clock position, and then you are set. The hour hand and the 24-hour hand and the date function have all been set. The 24-hour hand is there to tell you what time of day it is. So you can identify whether it's nighttime or daytime. Obviously you can do that by looking outside, but actually no, not necessarily now. It's 6:30 and this could quite easily be 6:30 in the morning. So actually yes, the 24-hour hand is really very useful. The cool thing is the date function. So all of this stuff is connected together. So as you cross time zones, if you go on a 12-hour flight and you cross the date, then you just turn the bezel and everything is set. It is so, this really does sound like a sales pitch. I love the bezel. I love the bezel. I'm on board with the bezel. You just turn it and everything sets for you. If you mess it up and you go too far around on the bezel and you choose an incorrect time zone, you don't have to go all the way around the bezel to then get to the correct time zone. You just go back again. You're not going to damage the movement by going either direction. As an end user and thinking about the customer interaction with this device, I think this is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. At risk of this sounding even more like a sales, this isn't a sales pitch. I don't benefit at all if IWC sell more. I don't care if IWC sell more watches. That's not the purpose of this. So this is just me talking about a watch that I think is quite cool. But this bezel, although the idea is quite alien and I had never interacted with the watch this way, the initial feeling was it makes sense. This feels natural. This feels normal. I think this bezel is awesome, and I think the bezel and the movements really make this watch stand out. What else makes this watch stand out is the price. So this is £11,250. £11,250. That is a huge amount of money. That's a truckload of money. I understand people's annoyance at IWC's price points, how they price their watches. I do feel like a lot of comments around, especially the previous video around the Spitfire Pilots Watch, a lot of those were comparing it to a Hamilton, comparing it to a Zin, but that's the same difference as comparing a Rolex Submariner to a Zin, or a Rolex Submariner to a Steinhardt. Yes, you can compare them, and yes, the argument could be, why spend £6,000 on a Rolex Submariner when you could go buy a Zin for a quarter, a fifth of the price, or a Steinhardt for a tenth of the price? Yes, I get that logic, but you're getting a completely different product. That you are buying a completely different thing, and that's the same with IWC, Hamilton, Zin, and all of that lot. But £11,000, I feel like, is a serious chunk of money. That is, I don't feel like this watch is refined enough to justify that price. With the others, it felt okay. With the others, I could see that where that money had gone. The mechanics in this watch are very different from what we see in other watches, and there's a price to that, of course. But I can't ignore the overall package of this watch. I don't feel this watch is it didn't feel like an £11,250 watch. The Daytona, for example, is a far more refined product. Granted, the movement in the Daytona is far more simple than what's in this IWC. But £10,000 for a far more refined product, I think, is getting more palatable than what this IWC is offering. To do another comparison, you can, for the same money, for £500 more, you can get yourself a Rolex GMT Master II and an Omega Speedmaster Professional for £500 more. And arguably, you're getting two watches that do exactly the same thing as this watch, without that bezel mechanism inside. That must be expensive, I can imagine that is. But as a package, I think this watch is far too expensive. It's far too large and far too expensive, which I find kind of annoying, because as an initial offering, I think this watch is incredible. And within a market that is so obsessed with bezeled watches, if you think about the GMT, the Submariner, the Black Bay, the Seamaster, we like our bezeled watches. And had they created a 40mm version that is more slim, yes, maybe it can't have that fancy bezel mechanism inside. But I think this could be their Black Bay 58. This could be their Submariner, their Seamaster. But at 46mm wide and 16.8mm deep, it's not going to work. For me, these are all my opinions. They're all my opinions. I'm sure someone who enjoys their large watches and is in the position to drop £11,000 on a watch might like this. This is an awesome watch. I do really like the watch. I think the functionality is brilliant. But as I said at the start, there's so much potential here, but it does miss the mark. Guys, drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this watch, particularly the bezel and that pricing, because I think they're going to be the two kind of push and pull factors of this watch. If you don't follow me on Instagram at Bark and Jack, or on Facebook, then you might not be aware that I've started a Facebook group called Drinking Coffee and Talking Watches. It is just, I know there are 1,000,001 Facebook groups, but this is just going to be, if you like what this channel is about, then jump over there, and it's kind of continuing the conversations that and it's, it's actually having conversations, because here it's kind of just, I like to think it's two-way, but it does feel one way, and I want to hear what you guys think and kind of interact. So if you're into Bark and Jack and you're into talking about this stuff, watches, cameras, just Bark and Jacky stuff, then jump over to Facebook and join the group. Drinking Coffee and Talking Watches. If you like this video, then do give it a thumbs up. If you like the style of this content, then hit that subscribe button down the bottom there and a little bell icon so you get notifications when I drop a new video. If you're on Instagram, give me a follow at Bark and Jack. And check out the watch straps and watch accessories over at barkandjack.shop. See you guys next time. Take care.